in. Sorry, that's okay.
I forgot to start it.
So I normally start out with like a nice little, just like a beginning, my picture, my information, what the property address is. The next page would be the property itself, like the public records. And then I'll do the comps. I'll do a thank you letter, and then I'll do like what you can expect from me as far as listing your property. And that kind of gives me like set up properly when I go meet them in person. Like I feel like I'm prepared, and they're like, oh wow, she's really put together. Like just that little thing makes people feel really comfortable. Like, oh, she knows what she's doing. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I start.
Awesome. Awesome. Anybody else on the panel have anything that you want to add that you guys might do a little bit differently?
Question.
How do you prepare for a listing appointment?
I pull up the property and I do a CMA.
Okay.
And then I go to the property.
Whoa.
I pull up the tax record, check out comps. Sometimes I'll drive by the property, see if there's any updates. I'm trying to get as close to the price as I can without seeing it, and I'll make adjustments on the fly there. So my old office used to say you do a 2-appointment thing. I always hated that because you didn't always get to that second appointment. So I don't do that. I try to put together a little folder, but I'm really not great at it. I have a couple things I made on Canva.
You don't have a crimper like Maddie does?
I know what a crimper is because I'm old enough, but I don't have it. No.
I'm somewhere between them. I stalk the people when I know that I'm going to go see them. I go to RPR. I'll pull up what I can. If you guys have Realtors Property Resource, I'm not sure if you have that here. And I'll check to see, when they purchased the property, how long they've owned the property. I go into Flex and I look for old listings that I might be able to find so that I can see if they've done upgrades, to the property once I arrive. Familiarize myself with the neighborhood, see if there's any other houses that have sold nearby. I look and see what kind of mortgage they might owe if they've taken out loans on the property so that I know kind of what I'm dealing with on that financial end, at least have some knowledge of that. I personally don't bring any paperwork to the listing. I do everything on an iPad or on my phone, where I will check Flex. I'll try to get comps that are in the same school district, same regions, with similar bedroom sizes. Similar number of bedrooms, similar lot sizes, etc. To pull up as comps when I'm there. I usually do something that I know our couple will be higher than that list, what I think the house will list for. I also do some that will be lower, so that as we're going through and I'm showing them the comps on my phone or on my iPad, I let them go through the pictures. And you'll hear a client say to you, oh, well, I have a better kitchen, or, I have hardwood floors and this comp has carpeting everywhere. And so I let them, say, and I'll agree with them. Yes, your house is better than this, so it should sell for more than that. And when they get up to the higher comps, they'll say, well, this has a nicer garage, or it has bigger land, or their basement's remodeled. And I'll say, yes, and that sold for this much, which means that we're probably not up there. So we're somewhere in between, and letting the clients kind of filter down into that place, I think is important for them to make those decisions in their own mind, so they don't feel pressured. But when I just stalk the clients, I stalk the history of the property, I stalk the neighborhoods, stalk their mortgages. And I do, put some comps into my phone so that and like Michael, kind of adjust on the fly when you get there. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Kyra, how do you deal with competition? Commission, service?
You're not going in order. I got my list right
Giving
here.
you some curveballs.
No, that's fine. First of all, I get a lot of personal referrals. So I don't want to say that I'm not in competitive situations, but I feel like my advice on this one is always have the mindset that you are going to be in a competitive situation, because you don't want to go in and feel like, oh yeah, well, my best friend sent this to me, so I've got this in the bag. Like, don't do that. Everybody knows 8 other realtors that they can call tomorrow. So don't go easy, don't blow it. Because if you don't take it seriously and don't do what you usually do, then they could just call somebody else. So, but I feel like to be a strong competitor, you have to have a strong mindset. So, work on your confidence. I mean, it's something that I have done year over year over year. And I just kind of let my confidence and my presentation speak for itself. I don't talk about competition or other real estate agents unless they ask me specific questions. I don't bring it up. I kind of just go in and just do what I do. I make sure that I'm confident in what I'm bringing to the table in terms of our marketing plan, price, their expectations, and all of that stuff. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, I don't know. Anybody else wants to add to that?
Francesca, do you have anything you want to add to that? How do you stack up? How do you deal with competition?
So I am in the same boat, I would say a little bit, that I do have a lot of personal referrals, but there has been times where I've gone into a listing appointment where I was assumptive and I shouldn't have been.
Mhm.
And it wasn't even a thought in my head because they reached out to me directly, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm here. Let's go through these steps. And I'm just talking very like matter of fact. And she said to me, "You make me feel comfortable. I actually interviewed 2 people before you." And I was just almost like caught off guard, right? Because I haven't really had that happen. I never look at being a realtor as like they're interviewing you, but you should.
Mhm.
So ever since that appointment, I have not been assumptive. I've been confident, yes, but yeah, grateful and humble, right? So that's where I land on that one.
Great. Okay.
That's okay.
Go for it.
If you go in thinking, "Ugh, I just need this listing, I just need this listing, I just need the listing," like they're going to feel that
Mhm.
energy. And I've done that before and it doesn't go well. So I like just ties in with the confidence thing of like, hey, you've got to believe that you are the best person to help them through this process. And if you believe that, you'll be fine. And if you don't believe that and you're questioning, they're going to feel that. They're not going to come out and say it, but they're going to feel that. And so that will inevitably be part of their decision making.
Mhm.
So
Add to that.
Go for it, yeah.
What she said at the end was staying humble and personable. I can highlight on that because that's what's won me over a lot when it comes to interviewing multiple agents. Sorry.
Mhm.
And what's won me every time was that, wow, you're really humble. You're not cocky. It's because I feel like a lot of agents can get to that point. I don't know if I mean, you sell a house, you're not a TV star. I feel like a lot of agents act like they are, but you're not. And I just see it that way. Stay humble, stay true to yourself, and I feel like that will outshine you versus the other agents. So
Yeah.
Michael. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike, how do you Mike, how do you differentiate yourself from other agents that you are competing with?
Guess that kind of goes back to what we we're just talking about. I don't really look at it as a competition. I know that I'm better than a lot of agents. It sounds really cocky. I don't say that in front of them. But it's the same thing each time. You're doing the same thing. You're offering $50,000 clients, $500,000 clients. It's the same process. Differentiate. I mean, I know what I'm talking about.
Right. But what do you do that other agents don't?
Yes. I'm heavy on the social media. I'm heavy on video. I'm heavy on paying for ads for your property, doing video with the listing. It's professional. It's 100%. It's not half-assed anywhere.
Mhm.
It's going to get done. Open houses. I do them. Like, they can come to me for anything.
Yep.
I was getting some cats out of a house today. Different parts of the house. I've cleaned houses. Whatever it takes, we'll get it done.
Yep. Great.
Can I respond to that?
Go for it, Pam. How do you differentiate yourself?
I'll give you a story. I had met a pediatrician who was checking my grandchild out from the hospital when they were newborns. And when he found out I was a realtor, he's like, "Hey, I have a realtor coming. We're going to list because I'm moving out of state. Can you also come? And so I knew I was competing. I wanted to be there before the other agent came. So I squeezed in prior to that agent coming, hoping I could come in and be out before the other agent even knew that I was in the house. And when I got there, we were talking. Of course, I think that it's real important that you reassure the client that you are the best person for the job. And I don't think cocky necessarily is what describes of confidence from you as an agent, knowing that you're going to get the job done and that you have the experience and the track record to get that job finished and completed for them in the time frame that they wanted it, and meeting their goals for realistically for pricing and for cash in hand when they leave. I did talk to them, not specifically about brokerages by name, but I know what the other agents in our area are going to do when they come to see him. And I prepared him for what that he would see. They're going to talk to you about the Homes magazine. They're going to talk to you about featuring you in the Real Estate Journal, which is a little magazine that they, the free ones. I'm sure you guys have them here. And I remind them the only people who pick up the Real Estate Journal are other sellers, people who are looking for their own house in the Real Estate Journal. And then they get all warm and fuzzy and they say, oh, look, there's my house in the Real Estate Journal. I'm doing a great job, but you don't need to necessarily market your house to other sellers who are looking for their own house. I prepare them for the agents that want to put little paper flyers underneath the sign in a tube. And I remind him that every single age bracket in every category are shopping digitally. I have never had a client, even if they're 80 years old, come up to me with the Real Estate Journal circled and showing me a house that they want to see. That's not how they shop anymore. They're shopping online. And then I will talk to him about the way that we're going to expose his property, both with professional photography, the way that we order the pictures. If you look and do research, you'll find that 90% of a buyer's time online is spent in the photos. If we can't capture a buyer's attention in the photography by ordering things in the correct way, you're not going to keep that buyer on your listing. They don't care what your taxes are if they don't like your kitchen. They don't care what, the school district is. You don't have the number of bedrooms that they need. So we need to capture our buyer's interests. We need to know how to market effectively digitally. We need to know what it will look like, what a buyer's shopping on a thumb-sized photo on a phone. And I talked to them about some of those types of details, telling them this is not just a simple matter. I'm going to come through my house with my iPhone, snap some photos and put your sign in the yard. I also do talk to them. I've had sellers who've said, I don't want a sign in my yard. And when I ask them why not, they're like, well, I don't want all my neighbors to know the house is on market. The neighbors are going to know your house is on market. They're going to say, why? Because I'm going to tell them. I'm taking a data sheet of your property and I'm knocking on all of your neighbors' doors. And the reason I'm going to do that is because your neighbors love this neighborhood and they want to be able to choose their next neighbor. The people who will first sell your house are your neighbors. So not only will we put a sign in your yard, but your agent's going to tell every single person around that they need to hurry up and go talk to their friends and sell the house. So, there's a couple of pieces, both confidence, infusing that confidence into your seller, making sure you're pricing the home correctly, but letting them know that you're going to market their home aggressively. We have multiple different MLS that we use, both Bright MLS as well as 2 local MLS. You need to speak in a language that your sellers will.
Did you get the pediatrician's listing?
I did.
You did.
And it was so funny because he called me. He told me he wasn't going to call me till the next day because we were leaving, by the way. She's on the doorstep ringing the bell. So she knew she was competing. And I was really nervous about it because he gave me no indication as to whether he liked what we did, liked what we said. But he literally called me 2 hours later. He said, the agent did exactly what you told me she was going to do. She came in with her big pile of papers and her big CMA and her folders. And, she talked to me about the Homes magazine and all of these things. She did exactly what you told me she would do. And we want you to list the home. And so, yeah, we listed it, we sold it. It was a great listing, but I don't think you should trash talk your other brokerages. Always lift up the real estate community. Always speak highly of realtors, that people should use a real estate agent. It's the best way to buy and sell homes. But there is a way to set yourself apart from the other brokerages, without wallowing in the mud. telling them how we, the other brokerages are trying to catch up to us, who are more savvy with marketing your property appropriately to the buyers who are going to see you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Pam. Okay, let's talk to Francesca. How do you handle divorce listings?
Oh man, I wish I could answer this.
Oh, you've never had
I
one?
can't answer it.
Oh, okay.
I can't. I'm
You are very
sorry.
lucky.
I'm kind of glad, but I mean, I like to think I am a good therapist too. So I hope when I get to that point, I can make them all comfortable and, handle it professionally, but I can't answer this one for you.
Okay. Who go ahead, Kyra. It's all you.
So my very first listing ever was a divorce situation. Very first listing ever. And I made it through, but, I guess, do you mean just in terms of handling the people?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So they're, probably going to expect you to like choose sides at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just very adamant at the very beginning of, hey, I'm here to represent both of you. We just need to make sure we have a common goal. So normally that common goal is sell the house and get this amount of money from it. And as long as we stay on that same page, then they're usually fine with me representing and respecting the other side. But there are going to be moments where one's going to vent to you about the other, and then the other one's going to vent to you. Well, did you see like what she did to the house and da, da, da. And then like your response just has to be, you have to at least listen and then be neutral. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. I'm just going to do the best that I can to help you through this process. And like, you could say that to anybody at any time, and it's just neutral. And then they feel like you're on their side, and you are, but you're on both sides. So, yeah, that's my best advice.
Okay.
And talk to both of them, because sometimes you can get like, if you know one, you have a better relationship with them, and then the spouse or ex-spouse is just kind of over here. But make sure you must talk to both of them and keep them both in the loop of what's going on.
Mhm.
So that's super important.
Yeah.
Did you have something?
Yeah, just a little something. So what I've done in the past, only just a few times, but I make it clear that, I'm going to communicate with both. And what I'll do is create a group chat if they're willing. And if not, then obviously I'll just keep it separate. But I think group chats are best because like you're that neutral middle ground in that chat that they feel like they can keep it professional. So yeah, that's just what I had to add.
Yeah.
But
Never
yes.
done
You've never done. Okay. Well, let's go back to, I'd like to go to Mike. How do you handle overpricing requests by the seller?
I don't get it a whole lot. I think you just tell them ultimately they make the decision. But my professional opinion is where I tell you it's at. We can start wherever you want, as long as they sign that paper. I really don't care. But it's that whole thing where you set the expectation is we can list for 300 or whatever, but I'm telling you, here's the comps. We're probably not going to get that.
Mhm.
And in 2 weeks, we're going to have a conversation about coming down to where I'm at. So it's setting the expectations and then shoving it in their face when it comes to reality. Politely, respectfully.
Politely and respectfully. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add about overpricing listings?
I would say something.
Go for
if
it.
you don't mind. We often, and if you haven't had a seller ask to price over, and you haven't done enough listings, I guess, because I think we all have taken the listings that have been overpriced, and we knew they were overpriced when we put them on market. One of the ways that I have used to combat the request for overpricing is I will have some comps in mind where I can show them the houses that have sold in their marketplace that they started at 650,000. Here you can see the history and the price reduction. Now they're at 625. Here we are 2 weeks later, they went down to 600,000. Now we're, 6 months into this and they're down to 495 and they finally sold at 475. Now, conversely, what could have happened is we could have put this on market at 475. We would have had competition And in 7 days, we may have gotten 495, but they ended up with less because people, the longer it's on the market, the more that buyers are going to wonder what's wrong with this listing. Why isn't anybody buying it? Especially in a market being so hot, where everybody's over every house that comes on. Why is this still here? And now that time frame has shrank. So it used to be if a house was on market for 4 or 5 months, people are wondering, and now it's shrank. If it's on for 25 or 26 days, people are like, what's going on with that house? So I will point out some of these other houses that took longer to sell and ended up selling for less than what they might have sold for had they priced it appropriately to begin with and generated competition from interested buyers. So the time on market is very important to point out to your sellers and how it will decrease the attractiveness and the competition in the marketplace for their home.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Maddie, what intentional activities do you do to market the listing while it's active on the market?
I think there's another question that's kind of similar. Is it like before the listing too?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess, can I just,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is while it's active on the market. So what
Okay.
do you do to market the property?
So while it's active, typically like I have to go back to the beginning where when you're just listing it too, because I'm pretty big on like the TikTok reels videos. I don't know if any of you follow me on social media or not, but like from earlier from what she said is, I get a lot of personal referrals. It's all on who I know on Facebook. Like Facebook is my top area where I get my clients. I just keeping up with people. And so yeah, just keep going back to what you're asking me is video. That's like my biggest thing, and posting, but also not being like a mosquito, just, shoving it out there every day. I think that's a little too much, but if you can just throw out something cute, something nice, something short and sweet, I think it'll catch the attention, but it's just me. So that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks. You want to add?
So what I've done is often, if it's a nice, not 95-degree day, is I will walk around and talk to neighbors. Usually inviting them to the open house that's going to happen. So open house is one of my big things to market the house, but also to try to find buyers. But that allows me to do video to market there. Just listed postcards, if I can't walk the neighborhood. But again, Facebook's my biggest area too. I'm not so much in the TikTok reels. Trying to figure out Instagram and stuff like that, but that's pretty much what I'm doing. If it's sitting on the market a little bit longer, I'm going to talk to the agents that have showed and try to get some better feedback then. It's generally what's left in the MLS or through showing time.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
So I like to do videos as well. I like to do video tours. And instead of always thinking about, I have to sell this property, that's my end goal, right? End game is to sell it, right? I look at it like if someone hired you to sell their home, it's also how you make them feel, right? So if I had a property and I didn't do a video for that, fine. And I had one where I did, and my consumer follows me on social media, they're going to wonder, well, why didn't she do a video of my house? I'm paying her the same, right? And if it were me hiring someone too, I feel like it would be more special if they did a video tour of my home and people can kind of piece it together better than photos. So I like to come at it too on making the client feel special. And thank you for, letting me help you with this. And then instead of the end game being, oh, I'm going to sell the home, they're going to recommend you to whoever because they felt that it wasn't so salesy. They felt comfortable and probably a little bit of pride, right? That their house is out there because most people don't have their home tour out online. So that's where I feel that's a good tactic is short and sweet videos.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Kyra, how do you prepare a CMA?
So when I came to Iron Valley last year, I was then introduced to KV Core. Prior to that, I just did my CMAs on the MLS. through just the search. So I still do both because I just am a checker. So I just go back and forth. But generally speaking, I start through KV Core when I'm creating the listing presentation, and I set up 3 main criteria, which is the style of the house within 3 to 5 miles from the house that have sold in the past 6 months. And so if there are any specifics or certain kind of thing, then I kind of adjust from there. But that, I mean, if you've used it through KV Core, it kind of generates itself through there. And then I go back in the MLS and just like see, I know it pulls directly, but I don't know. I'm still in my other mindset sometimes. So, yeah. And then if I need a formal document, I will do that from the MLS, pull up those, and then you can generate a CMA from there. That way there's some verbiage, a cover page easily generated and those types of things. But if I'm at a listing appointment, I take my computer and I pull up the listing presentation that I've created in KV Core and go through the comparables that way, so that they're seeing them real time. They can look at the photos right there digitally, scroll back and forth, those types of things. Right? You're welcome. That's what I do. Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right, Pam, can you tell us, how do you get leads for listings? Obviously, sphere of influence is big, right? And that's what we all really depend on. But outside of your sphere of influence, how do you drum up listing leads?
It's interesting, the conversations I've had recently about generating business in general. When I first became a real estate agent, I was inundated with people who wanted money to have various types of advertising. I didn't know there was this many ways to advertise until I became a real estate agent, from shopping carts to kiosks and calendars. And I mean, it literally just every single day I was flooded with different types of ways that I should be able to advertise myself. And I didn't buy into any of that stuff. Number one, I was broke. I needed to get on the ground running, and I didn't have money to spend. And then I was invited to a Buffini presentation. What do they call them? The
mastery classes.
So what he spoke about in his philosophies really connected with me. I believe a lot in face-to-face marketing. I think that there's a lot of, because we're so inundated with digital and social medias, I think that people get, I think they respond so well to a personally handwritten note card. I think that some of the things like the pop buys that you do, those pieces can make you stand out to a person. So I do have a lot of personal referrals for listings, but the way that you're marketing, I think you'll get a higher quality response if you are focusing first on spending your money and spending your time inside of social media. Inside your personal contacts with people. And whether it be, you can't sit at home in front of your fireplace drinking a glass of wine every night and expect that you're going to have a whole lot of business. I'm sorry, Christy. I wasn't a slam to you, really. But, I always have said, if you don't have a group, find a group, create one, start going to church or join a bowling league or, whatever it is that you do. Freeman has been threatening to join the cornhole board leagues. We have some of those in our area. Whatever it is that you want to do to create your sphere, you should do that, because you're going to get your highest quality leads from your sphere first. But after that, when you start doing business, you need to connect with people. I think knocking on doors is great. I did a lot of business for sale by owners. I did a lot of business at the time with expireds. We don't see as many expireds right now in our market for these last few years, but for sale by owners, go on YouTube, start researching, find an approach that works for you, find something that you're comfortable with, Don't lie to people and tell them you have a client if you don't. But I did, I assessed in my first 3 years as a brand new agent, somewhere around 35% of my business total was coming from for sale by owners. I was competing in an office where we had agents who had been in the business for 40 years, and did millions and millions of business without lifting a finger. I was top listing agent my first full year in business at that office, and it was because I had my sneakers tied on and I was knocking on doors and talking to for sale by owners. Some of the agents in our office were using letters. They were mailing out letters to expireds. They were mailing out letters for sale by owners. But by the time your mail drops, I'm going to already have knocked on their door and already have a listing contract signed by the time your mail piece arrives. The person that did the mail piece did very well with it, though, by the way. I'm not discounting that at all. If you're not comfortable knocking on doors, then do mail pieces. Write a nice personal, short, handwritten note, send it out to the expireds, send it out to places where you think, these people have been owning their house 5-8 years. They may think about selling, farm some neighborhoods in that way, whatever makes you comfortable. But yeah, get in front of people, talk to people, whether it's expireds or for sale by owners or your sphere. Those are great places to start.
Okay, great. To piggyback off of that question, Maddie, do you track your lead sources? And if so, how?
This is my weak spot because this is something I personally am working on. But I mean, I do keep everybody as far as my sphere goes on a list. And then I have to revert back to Facebook because I just try and keep up with everybody on there. And maybe I shouldn't do that, but that's just what's been my golden ticket so far in the last 6 years that I've been doing this. But yeah, I just try and keep up with everybody. I try and do pop buys when I can, and stuff like that, following up.
Great. How about you, Mike? Do you track your lead sources?
Somewhat. Yeah. So last year I used to have my sheet of running tally of, what I made that year and where they came from. I can tell you they're mostly sphere of influence. I can't tell you the rest of the numbers because I put it in there, but I didn't really look at it and delve into it. But I know where my people come from, and that's what I hit hard, and I do the other stuff as well. Because if I can get a deal or two out of FSBO or whatever, I'll do it. I'm good to go somewhere.
Okay, great. All right, last question. I'd like to ask all of you. So we'll start with Pam. How do you handle multiple offers? We're seeing a lot of that. So how do you deal with it?
Yes, we are. I'm thinking to my very first multiple offer situation, which I feel like I handled incorrectly. I was a pretty new agent. One of the buyers was my buyer, and I didn't know that I could have or should have handed off the other offers coming in. So I would think that the first thing to consider, if you're a seller agent working for a seller and you have buyers who are going to be making offers, it's a good idea to get another agent involved to help you to receive other offers that are coming from other agents, so that there is no appearance of conflict or bias on your part. So that would be the first thing. If I have a buyer or not would determine as to whether I'm going to receive the other offers. Assuming that it's not any of my buyers, I think it's real important that you let them know. I recommend to my sellers to allow the listing to be on market for at least 3 days. I think it's important. I usually put my houses on market on a Thursday late in the day, hoping that Zillow will pick it up and show it as a new listing over the weekend, generating the most interest. I try to do an open house the first weekend to get as many feet in the door. I can't tell you, in this market, as fast as things have been moving, there are agents who are away on the weekends because apparently you people have lives that yeah. Yeah. So doing an open house, a lot of agents will send their buyers to the open house, and I have found it helpful if other agents are having open houses to send my buyers to them so I don't have to run out. It saves me a lot of time, and I think that other agents probably think the same. So we've sold quite a few properties at the open houses, not receiving offers there, but being able to, as a seller agent, communicate with buyers and transfer the emotion and the connection that your seller has for that home to a buyer can help the buyer to have that same emotional connection. And so many times buyers are buying homes emotionally. You know, they feel it or they connect to it. At least women, I think, as a woman, I feel like that when I bought homes. So when you receive the multiple offers, give a highest and best time. I usually do it if I put my house on the market on a Thursday or Friday, I will recommend to the seller that we do a highest and best no sooner than Monday evening. My feeling on this is that if a buyer sees your property, it gives them time to connect with a lender if they haven't done that. And Monday day, they can still finish up or, you know, solidify their pre-qualifications and such that they need from their lenders. So I think having enough space of time and business days on market gives the buyers time to be best prepared to give a good offer to your seller. I have had, it's the seller's decisions, by the way. So if your seller puts this house on market on Friday morning and Friday afternoon, you get an offer and the seller doesn't want to do multiple offers, then, you know, be ready to take the heat from the other agents where you have to cancel all the showings and they're going to yell at you because their buyers didn't even have a chance. But it's not my house and it's not my money. It's the seller's choice. But if the seller follows my recommendations and you get multiple offers Monday night, I will always take the multiple offer sheet. There's our MLS has one. I'm sure that everybody has access to the multiple offer sheet. I write down by hand every single offer into that multiple offer sheet, and I have the sellers look at the multiple offer sheet as we're reviewing it. When they have selected an offer, I think that multiple offer sheet's really important because it sets out every piece of the offer. It's not just the sales price that your sellers would be looking at, but what bank are they using? How much is their earnest money deposit? What kind of inspections are they going to be using? What's the settlement date? How long is their inspection period? All of those pieces will help you to determine which offer will best suit your seller's needs. When the seller has chosen an offer, I will have them sign at the top of every single offer that they've seen the offer and they've declined the offer. You could also have, there's an acknowledgement in your MLS. PAR has forms where you could actually write all those out. I don't write all of those out, but I have in certain circumstances where an agent has asked me to have that form signed. I get it signed by the seller, but most of the time I will just draw a line across the contract on the front page, draw an X, have my seller sign that they deny or rejected the offer. And I think that's important because buyer agents, and I'm sure all of you have been in that position as a buyer agent where you're like, did that seller even see my offer? Like, I spent hours putting this together and, did they even see it? So I think, giving the buyer agents the respect of giving them the acknowledgement in writing from your seller that they saw the offer and that they rejected the offer and chose another one. I will then send an email out to the agents individually and tell them that our seller has selected another offer. So it's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
Mike, how do you deal with multiple offers?
She was very thorough.
Yeah.
So, it's all right. So I do much of the same. I'm going to put a breakdown of what the offers are. One thing that I do is I try to pit them against one another type of deal and get the best that I can. So if I have one that's like really good, another that the terms are really good, but the price not so much, I'll let that agent know, like, your terms are great. We'd love to take you, but I'm gonna need more money. Where can you go? So I try to work them against one another. I take escalation clauses. I know a lot of people say like, I don't want to take it, whatever. I don't like it. But I also do that too. I have agents say, is it worth me writing an offer? It's always worth it because I can use it to push someone else up.
Mm-hmm.
I've got yelled at for doing that before, but I don't, whatever, I don't care. That's the biggest thing. What's important to the seller. So it's not always money. It could be timeline. It could be inspections. Who was a lender? Have I worked with this person? Have I worked with the agent? Good experience, bad experience with their brand new agent. Just kind of how they talk to me on the phone. I mean, that really plays a big role. Did they even call me on the phone
Right.
or tell me? So a lot of like little things indicate their future performance and if we're gonna make it to the end. So I take all that stuff into consideration, and usually I'll tell them this is what I think is the best, but here's everything. I don't do the whole signing off on stuff. So far I've been lucky. No one's ever complained. And I do make it, I call every agent at the end. So I try not to text them unless they don't answer. I give them a call. I let them know kind of where their offer stood, and that if, falls through, I'll call them back.
Awesome. Maddie, how about you?
So first off, I usually put like a little note in the MLS, in the agent remarks, just saying, offer received or multiple offers received. We're going to set a deadline, which I normally let the seller choose that. But I'll give my recommendation like a few days. So I'll put that in the MLS, and then I'll also send out like a little note to every agent who showed it. So you can do that through the Showing Time app. You can send out like an announcement. So I'll send those out and it'll go right to their emails or their phones. And then from there, I do what she does. I use the multiple offer sheet, and I write everything down. I highlight everything about the offer, and then I'll kind of put in my perspective which one would be first, second, and third to me, and let my seller decide. And if I really can't decide, if it's really close, I've called one of you guys and just gotten your input as a second opinion, and then let the sellers decide from there. So
Okay, great. Kyra?
Trying to think what I can add, because I do a lot of similar things. One thing that I do tell my sellers is, if they're having trouble between two, then I say, okay, well, our options are always accept, reject, or counter. And then they're like, what does counter mean? And so we talk through that, and that's kind of where maybe I, use a little bit of what Mike was saying of, we don't necessarily have to pick between this one or this one. Do you like somewhere in between? Should I make a phone call to try to negotiate and counter one or the other? If one is willing to push a little further than the other one in terms or in price, well, then that might be our deal breaker. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, what do you think we should do? What would you do? And so obviously we have a sense of what makes most sense in terms of price and terms, but if they're close, sometimes it does come down to the agent, where I'm like, hey, I don't know this agent at all, but I've worked with this agent before and they're really good. I have a good relationship with them, or, it just depends. And I am also very communicative with the agents. And I give them maybe more details than what I should, in just, hey, here was the thought process behind the decision making, especially if we're not accepting their offer. Just to give them as much as I can ethically, because next thing I know, I'm going to be writing an offer on their listing, and I need, to have the rapport and the respect and all of that with them. So everything else, I do the sheet, I do in MLS, the notifications and all those types of things.
Francesca, what do you have to add?
All right. No, I was thinking some things that I do and I like is absolutely call an agent if you are rejecting their offer. No one likes to make the phone call, especially if you have to do it 6 times, but they appreciate it. And I also recommend filling out that rejection letter that the sellers sign, so the buyer's agent can take it to their buyer and make them feel seen and heard, because it's relationships, it's not always sales, right? And then another thing would be what Pam said. Sometimes I've had a seller just take the first in hand, and it's a hot house, right? They maybe had 12 showings, but some of the older crowd, they appreciate if someone's ready to go and they write an offer, that sometimes they take it, And you do get some heat from the other agents. You're supposed to, let us at least go through. We already had it scheduled. It's not my house, and there's a reason why it happened. Yours is out there.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all so very much. So we're going to open it up for Q&A from the audience. So who would like to ask a question?
Okay. So my question is, as a buyer's agent, I'm like, why can't you just tell me what the number is? I mean, are you willing to get permission from your seller to disclose?
So I will never say a number. I will just never do it. I will give out some of the other terms for closure, you know, especially if you've been writing offers left and right and you can't seem to catch a break and it's exhausting.
I mean, at the beginning when I'm still writing and I call you, is there anything you
Oh,
can
and you
share with
say,
me, the buyer?
Oh,
Yeah.
you say, is there any way I can
Yeah.
write this today
You-
and get this deal done?
Or, well, you have 3 offers in hand. I'm like, what's it going to take? Tell me what I need to do. Can you get permission from your seller to disclose and I'll give you what you want?
Right. So again, in my experience, I will never say a number, especially if I have other offers.
Tell them to.
Yeah, I won't, because it's the terms too, right? It's not always that number. It could be, are you giving me a nice clean cut offer that my sellers might
You
like?
tell me what to give you, I'll give it. These are the buyers that I have.
So from
So,
my
like-
perspective, I don't want you to know a number so that you just go just above there. You go right there. I want you to think you have to go as high as you got to go. So I'm not going to give you that number. I may give you an indication that it's very strong or it's above asking. It's well above asking, but I'm not going to say 200 gets it when maybe you will go to 205 because.
So why
you're
not
all
just say
cuckoo about it.
205?
I mean, I could say any number, I guess. That's a good point.
Right. I'm like this baffles me. Why wouldn't you just
You're
get
50.
what you're, and a bonus?
But if you're asking for what the other offer is,
I'm just asking for you to tell me
Not
what I need to
ethical.
do to get the deal.
just write it up, Tony. Just write it.
Useless.
So
No,
you
I'm
don't-
just kidding.
Tony, leave it to Tony to ask a very controversial question. And I appreciate it. It's been interesting because I started exercising this as a buyer's agent in our area, and the agents are so offended. Like there's some unwritten rule that nobody told me about, that I apparently am breaking when I ask, so what's it going to take for my buyer to get this house? I want to write a great offer. Tell me what's going to take. What do you got in hand? And these agents are so squirrely and will not give me answers. They will not. And they act like I just was sacrilegious or something.
I was like, no, I won't do that.
No. So this is my, and not to, I would never argue with Michael because
Anyone.
he has such a calming voice. So, but if the highest offer I have is 205, then that's the highest that my seller can get right now, right? That's the most money that they have in their hand. So why wouldn't I tell Tony 205? Because if she comes back at 206, that's $1,000 more than my seller has today. So I don't see a harm, nor am I bound to confidentiality to the other buyer agents. I don't have an obligation to them to not reveal the offer terms. I have no obligation for that. And if it's to my seller's advantage and I can bring a better offer to the table, then why wouldn't I do that? I did talk with an agent who's very experienced. We like to go back and forth. And his take on it was that it may not be in your favor. So if you have a house listed at 200 and the best offer you have is 195, it may not be in your favor to tell them that you have a 195 offer. If that person knows the house has been on market, we have 3 offers in hand, all of them are under 195. Well, then the seller may not get the $200,000 offer that you would have written. So, I mean, I think that's the only objection that I've heard is that it may not always be in the seller's favor to reveal the terms of the offers that you have in hand. But I do think that we as seller agents are advocating for our seller to get the best offer, both in price and in terms. And if I can reveal the other buyer's offers in some way, I don't see a disadvantage to that for my seller.
And I'm not necessarily asking what the other offers are, just asking what number to get it done. It might be 203 in that scenario.
Obligations to buyer agents.
Thank you.
There's no confidentiality that I have as a seller agent. I don't have a rule of confidentiality to the other buyer's offers. I have no obligation to them. The only obligation I have is to my seller. And I promised my seller my best efforts to get them the highest and best. And sometimes that might be to answer Tony's question and say, look, you bring me a cash offer with no inspections at asking and we'll get the deal done. Right?
Next question.
You disagree, John?
People who like to.
What do you think, John? I want to hear. I want to hear John's opinion on that. If I'm a buyer agent, John, if I'm a buyer agent and I call you and say, John, I do, what are you going to say, John?
Okay. Here.
If Tony called you and said, John, I have a buyer, what's it going to do to get this deal done? I know you have multiple offers. What do you say?
Put it on paper and we'll review it.
Gone.
Why?
Because that's what I'll tell you.
It's simple.
On paper, we'll review it and
At least you didn't shame me and tell me I'm a horrible person for asking.
because I have to deal with you every Thursday once a month. Period.
It's a fair response.
I was just going to say something along the same lines, not as quick as that, but essentially, I mean, so if I tell you that number and that may be fine to me, right? But so am I going to go back to every other agent and give them that same fair thing to give them a call? Well, I'm just saying, but so then I'm going to go back to everyone and just review offers and just keep going and going. It's like, just give us your best offer, right? I see where you're coming from because I like that. But in the same token, I feel like I'm going to be just, I mean, let's just start the auction. They were at 207 and what do you do? You know? So, but I get what you're saying. But that's so difficult. So I guess if you just drop it and just say, hey, give me your best offer or hey, you're close. But yeah, I don't think there's a good answer to that. But I appreciate that you would ask that. But the same token, don't be offended, I think, if someone tells you that. Yeah, right. Oh, you can.
And I learned this part by I want to come. Hang on. Sorry. So they can hear you at home.
Yes, thank you. I learned the hard way and it's ties in, it's a little softer around the edges, but I will say to a listing agent, please, and I think everybody has done this, please give me the opportunity if we're close. That's kind of how I lead into that, just without asking that, because I did that once and I don't think, and when I found out what the offer was, I was close. Now, should that listing agent should have taken it upon themselves? I think it's the buyer's responsibility in that situation. If a multiple offer situation, please give me the opportunity if we are somewhere in the ballpark. And it's won me a couple that way, rather than, pitting just again, because to your point, you go around and around and around and around and you're going to have 5 offers and you're going to do this. And then you're going to, to me, I think you risk pissing off people. I mean, there's only one offer, but then buyer's like, you know what? I'm not playing games anymore. I'm out. Yeah. That's my feeling.
But it's not always the number. Right.
Exactly. So if I'm close, like if I'm in the ballpark, number wise, but yeah, if
Calling the seller's agent and saying, so what's most important to your side? They have a preferred timeline for closing.
yes,
Do they,
and I do think it's the buyer agent responsibility
to make that phone call
take
and
that
ask.
and make that phone call. You're the listing agent, you're representing buyer agents.
And sometimes it's a matter of getting the seller's agent talking. And,
Yeah.
talk about something else first and then circle
And I
back
have
around
found that
and see what you can get out of them.
listing agents that, have a few under their belt. Love that. Yeah.
So I love that answer and I love this conversation because Tony does that on every time. When she's writing an offer, she will call and say, what's it take to win? But what I've done before in the past is, and I do the same thing, I try to pit them against each other before I present them to my seller, right? And then when I do that, if they're all pretty much the same in terms, which a lot of times they are, right? Everything's pretty much the same. And I have someone asking me like, Tony, right? I don't have to say what will take just $1,000 over. I can just negotiate with Tony, right? So I've told other agents, like if the house is listed at 200, maybe I have it up to 205. And she says, what will it take? And maybe the highest I have is 205. And I can say to her, 215. If your clients are ready to pay, or if they want to do 215 all day long. Yeah. And I'm going to, yeah. So
But see, that's how the conversation would go. The conversation would go between you as a seller agent and Tony responding. And the other thing that I would say is that if I have somebody like Tony, I have multiple offers and they're all very similar. And I've had it happen where literally a couple of them used the same lender. They had the same earnest money deposit. It was insane. My seller was looking at the buyer's names to see if there was anybody he recognized so that he could choose. That's how close the offers were. But if I had a buyer agent who called me and said, my buyer really wants this house, what's it going to do? What's it going to take for us to get this deal? I know that if we get to a difficult inspection, that Tony's going to run the extra mile to try to get it fixed. And the solution, she's a solutions minded agent that will be working to the best interests of her buyer. And I think that that type of person is somebody I like doing business with and will maybe get my seller to the closing table more often.
yeah, I too. I like buyer agents like Tony who are aggressive. I just do. What? Can I ask one more question? Wait, so what advice do you have for buyer agents in order to make them stand out when they're writing an offer on one of your homes?
Something that I personally like is when you send your offer with PDF, not just through Dotloop, that, and just a quick paragraph of what your offer is about, why we should choose you, etc. That to me is extremely important because it's not just, oh, I just sent it and I gotta go through your Dotloop and search for it. If it's presented properly with the PDF and the email, I think it just looks really clean. And if you can even show that to your seller, I feel like then you can choose easier. So
Filling out the agreement of sale correctly, that goes a long way. Goes a long way. So was that-
I was literally just going to say that if I get your contract and it's half-assed, I know that the entire transaction is going to be half-assed and I don't want to work with you. And I'm going to tell my sellers, I don't want to work with you.
I just got one with our old address, which has been over a year. We did take it because we didn't have multiple offers. Fancy people, we took it.
Okay, so I have a question. I want to ask Maddie. So we see you all over Facebook, right? We see the TikToks, we see all the social media stuff. Where do you come up with the content and the ideas to be able to showcase your listings and your clients?
So something I do is I will just go on Instagram and just scroll, or even TikTok and just scroll. And sometimes it'll catch you on what you like to stop and look at. Like real estate is one, horses is another one, CrossFit, I don't know, whatever you like. And then it'll just project more of those videos for you. And then I'll just get kind of ideas from that, or I'll save the audios, and it's very weird. I'd have to show you, because a lot of people I know don't use Instagram and it's kind of hard to explain if you don't know what it is. But anyway, so I'll go on there, get ideas, and I'll kind of recreate it in my own way, not just copy somebody else's. And I'll go, ooh, that's a really good idea. I have the perfect listing or perfect opportunity for that. And I'll save it and I'll go back and I'll go in and make my own video. And it sounds like super scary and hard, but it's not. You just go through, you can cut your videos. Another thing I do is if I'm just walking around and I know I want to make a video later, I'll just pull out my camera and just start recording little moments I know I would love to showcase in a video. It's that simple. You just pull your phone out and just record, and you can edit the photo or the videos later, or photos. So it's really just going through and getting ideas from other agents and things online and kind of recreating it in your own way. It's really that easy. Okay. Anything else as far as Instagram and videos from anybody else?
What, you see you're going to teach a class?
Oh, no. I mean, if I had to, I guess I could. I can show you guys. I can. I think Jason, I had helped you with a video once before. If you catch me in the office, I'll be like, all right, I have an idea for you. Let's here. It'll take us 10 minutes. He's seen it firsthand. So, I mean, if you ever need me, just let me know. Be happy to help do one for you, and you can kind of take the reins.
Stop.
Go ahead.
I would say part of it is you kind of have to get over yourself though. So why she does get a video is because she's confident to do the video. Like, just record the video. Like, I do them, I'm all right. But, it's authentically me. Like, so that's what they're gonna get when they list. It's authentically me. As much as like she's maybe getting ideas from there, she's doing it her own way. Like there was a trend for a while, like agents pointing at little blurbs on the screen, and I'm sorry if you did that. But like it couldn't get more annoying. Seeing the same ones talking about FHA and conventional, like whatever. But
Let me see this one. I want to compliment her on we've seen some of her material, and one thing that you said was about the authenticity, just being your authentic self when you're doing it. But in reference to content, the reason that Maddie has content is because she has it at the top of mind. It's something that she thinks about. It's something that she's she wakes up in the day, and it's on her mind as she goes through it. As much as I'm thinking about what am I having for lunch, she's thinking about what's my next video going to be, right? So it is one of those things that we went with our pastor's wife has an eye for photo opportunities, and she'll see something beautiful and take a picture with it, and she finds some of the most interesting things to take pictures with. And her photos are beautiful, but it's because she's looking for it. It's just something that they have. And that's why I would say to you, if you're looking for content is all around you. You encounter it every day when you go onto your social media of your own. The things that entertain you are also going to entertain other people. The things that you're interested in are things that you'll deliver in the most authentic way.
Through that. Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody at home? Going back to Tony.
I'm trying to get other people to ask this question because I feel like a question hog. But okay, so this agent's calling me. This is hard. That's very hard. Okay. Can you counter two? Like I'm a listing agent. I'm getting multiple offers. There's two that are at the top. Can I can I count? Like I always thought that I could, nope, you could only count. There's just one person you can counter with. You can't call two different agents and counter. Is that a true statement?
Or your seller side?
The seller,
I
yes,
don't know what
that's
the
before the
state
seller
commission
signs.
says, but I see very little reason why not. Whoever gets theirs in first, fully signed, let's go.
Okay. So I can call two different people and be like, game up.
But you may want to talk to Justin Hovetter about that.
Nice disclosure.
So it's interesting you brought Justin into this. Like, yeah, real estate commission, Justin, what will they say? I think that verbally anything can be countered verbally. If you're countering in writing, be aware that countering, verbally I would say you could, but you also have to consider what reputation might be gained or lost. So if I'm calling you and I say my seller's countering to you, and then I call Christy and I say my seller's countering this to you, and you both come back with affirmatives, at some point I'm going to say my seller took another offer, and now whoever that was that got, you felt like you in good faith were receiving a counter from the seller. I expect that person as an agent is going to honor their word to me. So if I get my buyer to come up or change terms or, change lenders or whatever we're going to do to make this offer happen based on the counter that was given to me verbally, there's a reputation to keep in mind. And it is about relationships.
No.
I would just say I wouldn't as a practice counter too, even if it's verbally. I think technically, yes, you could verbally counter to multiple different people. I just think it could be a bad idea because the reputation you may gain when you're giving your word that the seller's countering to you, and then you have to say, oh no, sorry, too late because somebody else came to the table.
If you're doing the counter, doing it that way, tell both parties I countered with someone else. Whatever comes to me first, we're then going to rescind the other counter. So that way you keep your open and honest if you're going to do it, but it can be a little sketchy.
As a buyer's agent too, that's something that we should ask, right? When you get a counter, to ask them, are you only countering to me or are you countering to others? But I'm very honest and open when I'll counter to several offers verbally.
But you're letting them know that you're.
I do, but I let them know that this is the way that you can do it is by saying, So I have several offers that are the same, but let me tell you what I don't have. Right? And that's sort of going back to everybody and telling them what I don't have and what we want. And then we see who gets their final act together. Thank you.
All right, really simple. We'll go back to the beginning and we talked about getting the listing as far as preparing and all that. Tell me how you find your listings. Tell me where this market is for you. So these folks here can go out and instead of building a business, really building a brand. And every one of us is a brand on our own. So as you build your brand, how are you building that business up? Where is it coming from? Someone mentioned a little bit on expired. Someone may already know I love that. What other? I know social media because Maddie's the queen of it. Homegirl, gotcha. But yeah, and I know social media drives the reminder out there. But tell me how you build that business from, especially if there's newer agents in here. How are they going to go out there and make an impact on the listing side of the business? I don't care who answers it.
I mean, I'll just keep it simple back. I just feel like if you get people, you get listings. And so it is a building process. It's not, hey, how do I get a listing tomorrow? I don't have an answer for that. I have an answer of how you can build a business to get listings for, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, that. And I mean, yeah, social media, but I stay in touch with my centers of influence, the organizations that I'm a part of, reaching back out to past clients, making sure I keep a relationship with them. It's just relationships. And it's just, I have kind of, evolved into real estate is just part of my lifestyle. Like it's not my job. It's what I do. It's what I talk about. It's how I help people, how I find a sense of self-worth, even sometimes, or a purpose of helping people through that transition. So it is a building, and there is no answer of how to get 3 listings next month. Like I see all those ads, I mean, you can, the advertising is part of it. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money, like all of those types of things. But I just feel like if you get people, you get listings.
I also, I go to church, and if they don't know what you do for a living, they're never going to utilize you. So no, you don't need to have it on your car, right? Or you could, whatever. But if you just occasionally talk about it, like she said, it is just a part of who I am. It's a part of my life. And I'll ask you, how are your kids doing? Are you comfortable in your home? Do you need to upsize, downsize? I totally understand. It's more comfortable conversation, and then it will just lead you to more listings. And often just by how you treat people, they will refer you. So really, I can't stress enough. It's not really a sales position for me. I don't feel like a salesperson, right? I just, I'm a problem solver, right? So that's how I feel. Oh, I love it. I love it. In Matchmaker in school, my teacher, he said what he always did was pair them together, right? The minute he got a listing, if he's walking through, and now I can't shut my brain off. When I am walking through a potential listing, I'm like, I have the buyer for this one. I have the perfect person. And the past 6 months, I can't tell you how many I double-ended just because I can't shut it off in my brain. And it's also, I'm a spiritual person, but I think it was meant to be that way. It's not that I don't go and call them and say, oh, get in here. I let it open to the field, right? Fair game. And it just happens to fit. So Matchmaker is perfect, right? Yes.
And I feel like I might have addressed this a little bit in one of my other answers, but I didn't have time to build, and I didn't have a sphere when I started in real estate. So I did look for expireds, and I did look for sale by owners. for sell by owners, it's a lot of work because you'll talk to 10 of them before you get one. I mean, I think 10 of them will let you come and they'll talk with you, but to get one to list, it takes a little bit of work, and talking and confidence building and timing. Each for sale by owner person has their own time frame of what's important to them, talking to them at the right time. There's a couple of other places though. I talked to my team agents and I told them, you should watch obituaries. And I know it sounds very morbid, but it's true that when people pass away, often there's an estate. John's shaking his head at me. Don't shake your head at me. You know it's true. Or birth announcements when people have babies. Often they need to expand their home and go bigger. So there's multiple different places. I of course did a lot of door knocking. I felt like there wasn't anything less expensive for me to do than print off that was something relatable to the neighborhood, whether it was market information or, you know, the latest happenings that are going on in the downtowns, knocking on the doors, generating a conversation with people about the marketing piece that you're handing them that's relevant to them, relevant to their school, relevant to the neighborhood. And then I would say one of the questions I always would ask them is, you know, I'm always interested in the neighborhood. Do you know of anybody that's looking to buy or sell around you? And I'll tell you, you'll find that neighbor that knows everything that's going on in the neighborhood. They know that these people are talking about selling and moving to so-and-so because husband's getting a job transfer. They'll tell you everything. And it's really good to do it when it's cold or raining because they will invite you in and give you tea and tell you everything you want to know about who's selling what, when. So.
How do you handle your agents? They'd like to know how you guys how do you handle that?
I again, Rick Zalek, my teacher, he said, be as transparent as possible, no matter what you do. And that's how I do business. You remind me of that too. You just disclose everything. I feel like I just try to have, I know it's hard because I know some other states don't do dual agencies, right? But if you're ethical, if you have that, you know, in you, I think it will come through, yes, to your work. So I haven't run into many problems or hurdles with dual agency. I'm very upfront and direct with both of them on what is your goal here and what is your goal here. And my goal is to negotiate on both parts, but mainly for the sale, right? Are you happy at this point? Are you happy at this point? Great. I'm not going to force anyone to do, you know, anything they don't want to do. And yeah, do you anything more specific?
You ever had an objection as far as, you know, somebody have you ever had a seller or buyer, whoever you're representing, saying, I don't feel comfortable with you representing?
I have one. Yeah.
And
one time.
What was your response to that?
I said, oh, I totally understand. And it wasn't any skin off my back. If that's what they feel is right for them, I have no problem saying, I understand that if you're more comfortable with, I know I would represent you the best that I possibly can.
But your successes though, that question never came up that you pursued. Like if they expressed concern, were you able to overcome that concern and proceed with your dual agency?
Absolutely.
How did you do that?
I think it's your character. People can read you, right? Are you in it for the money? Are you trying to get this sale? Or are you doing what's right for me and what I'm comfortable with? I say comfortable a lot because when people are dealing with large sums of money, they want to trust you, right? So if they feel comfortable with you, dual agency has never been an issue. I think it's how you treat people and they'll be okay to move forward with you. And I just disclose everything. The buyer feels this way. How do you feel? This is what they want in the inspection. Is this okay with you? Most of the time I've had very nice folks who are laid back, you know, sometimes we get the, the opposite.
How do you handle with a multiple offer situation?
With dual agency,
And dual.
it just happened to me, yes. I had three separate buyers, or no, that wasn't dual agency, that was just multiple. I haven't had multiple offers on one of my seller listings. Is that what you're saying? Where I represent the buyer?
Right.
I haven't had that. I've only ever had if I had the listing, right? And maybe it was on for a week and my best friend wanted to buy it or a friend or whatever. I haven't had it where there was multiple offers.
Has anybody else, like, what is your standard practice of that?
With
The buyer submitted their agent and
Right.
just represent the seller. And then I put them all the others.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, panel, for taking the time to be with us here today. So please join us in giving a round of applause to our panel. So, and thank you, everybody at home. So we will see you all again next time.